Welcome to Rates and Barrels, presented by E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. It is Monday, July 28th. Derek VanRiper here with Eno Sarris. On this episode, we have some trade deadline appetizers to snack on from the weekend. A few trades, including one that sent Ryan McMahon to the Yankees as the Yankees continue to try and bolster that roster. We have an Aaron Judge IL stint to talk about as part of that as well. A surprising extension, at least to some of us, Seth Lugo getting a couple extra years from the Royals. We'll talk about the implications of that and why they decided to go that direction. Nick Kurtz had a monster game, a 4-homer game, the 20th in MLB history, which seems like that happened years ago because the other huge news that just dropped a little before we started recording is the news that Emmanuel Clase has been placed on non-disciplinary paid administrative leave as MLB continues its sports betting investigation. Clase will join teammate Luis L. Ortiz on leave through August 31st. Kind of another bombshell in a story that had faded to the background for now while we were waiting for the investigation to play out, but now we know there's a second player connected to it, with Clase now being on leave as well.
Yeah, this is terrible news. It's terrible news. I guess the only hope that we can have is the same hope that baseball has, that this is one ring, this is one situation that has expanded to include another pitcher. Because if it's multiple situations with multiple gambling rings, that would be terrible. I know that there are a lot of analyses, and I've taken part in this. Like I tweeted out the picture of Luis L. Ortiz's first pitch that was one of the pitches that they were looking into, like the gambling activity around that pitch. And it was a ridiculous pitch that he basically threw right into the ground. There are similar images for Clase, but I just wanted to reiterate that the actual pitches into the ground is not necessarily the problem. So we don't have to launch an investigation every time there's a crazy, like we were just watching before this show, some really nutty Edwin Diaz.
Yeah. So to pull more context here. So I started just looking around, and we're not going to show clips, and we're not going to send the counts out and leaderboards out on this stuff. But I was just looking for 0-0 waste pitches in the ninth inning. I just wanted to see like who has a lot of them. And Clase does not lead the league in those. Edwin Diaz does lead the league in those. And I'm not implying that Edwin Diaz is doing anything nefarious, because I was watching where he was missing and how he was missing. And it's just like fastball up into the right-handed batter's box.
The arm side.
Like overthrowing on the arm side. Yeah. And any one of us can start like going down a rabbit hole and be like, okay, like what does this look like? And what was happening in this game? And I would advise against that. Without evidence that leads you to a player to start looking at the things that might be suspicious. Like I would not just blindly go in there and be like, oh, every bad miss is suspicious. That would be terrible to go down that road.
There are some interesting questions to ask about the basically the AI, the way that they catch them is by like looking for weird betting activity. So it'll pop if it's 3 times the betting activity on a single pitch that they normally have. And I don't even think that takes AI. You can just like have like a program that's like, ooh, hey, over here, a lot of, but and to give baseball, to give them the benefit of the doubt here a little bit, and I think that I'm willing to, because I think that our interests are aligned, that we do not want games being thrown and we do not want gambling in baseball. I would assume that that's only step one. Step one is like, hey, a lot of weird activity here. Step 2 is then, was it actually weird, or was there any other reason for activity to be high on that one? Maybe that was actually like a big game. Maybe it was New York, or you know what I mean. Maybe it was a big market. Step 3 is then who made these bets, and the biggest step 4, which we haven't heard, and that's the hammer. But that is where they are right now, and that is why it is bad news that Clase was added to this. Step 4 is, do we have any evidence that they're talking to each other? Mm-hmm. Subpoenaing, phone records and banking records to see if there's any money changing hands and see if there's people talking to each other. There's a really good Pablo Torre finds out about the Jonte Porter situation, about a Twitter account named NBA Moose that tweeted a year before Malik Beasley got in trouble that Malik Beasley would get in trouble. And Pablo Torre goes through basically an investigation much like the one that the NBA is going into, and the one that, so if you want to see what the work is like, you can watch that episode, because he basically proves that that account was run by a cousin of the guy that was busted in the Jonte Porter situation, which links Malik Beasley, Terry Rozier, and Jonte Porter to the same gambling ring. So that's the work that is undergoing right now, that the MLB is undergoing right now. We don't have any sightlines into it until they announce what they've found. But I think putting a guy out there, it's not in their best interest to have more names attached to this. They want to have the fewest amount of names. So once they put out there that this person's on leave, I'm pretty pessimistic about their, honestly, their best chances of pitching again in baseball.
Right, because you have to imagine if they can prove that there was nefarious behavior, then the punishment's going to be extremely harsh, probably in the vein of a lifetime ban, because the integrity of the game is critically important to Major League Baseball if they're going to continue trying to operate this way, to have gambling partnerships. Look, I realize that we have sports books that advertise on this podcast, right? We have a betting channel in our Discord. Like we're not sitting here saying like, oh, absolutely no gambling anywhere near here. Like we're part of it in the sense of like we are a business that takes advertising money from sports books. Like I'm fully aware, fully acknowledging that. And I think from a personal perspective, like those decisions are not decisions that you or I get to make. That's a company decision. But from a personal perspective, I had, I think, a pretty naive view of gambling from the beginning because of my interactions with it. My interactions with sports betting have been Las Vegas on random work trip vacation type scenarios where it's a home run derby or a Sunday game before the All-Star break. It's a small wager and it doesn't matter to me one way or the other really what happens, and life just goes on, right? And then I'm back to a place where I can't.
That can be pretty fun.
Fire bets from my phone.
You just put a little bet on it. You watch the game. It's fun.
Right. That's my.
But for a lot, it's an addiction. Right. The addiction to gambling runs in my family, and so we've always just been, we'll partake actually, but we as a family now have pretty strict rules about how much money you can put in the pot and how much you can bet at any one time. Like it's
right.
Something that my father has passed on to me because his father didn't do those things, and it was pretty terrible for the family.
Yeah, so I guess for me, like I didn't think enough about all the downside that comes along with it. We've seen a lot of stories about players and their families being threatened by gamblers that were upset over lost wagers too. Lucas Giolito, the latest. Lance McCullers earlier this season. Dan Hayes wrote a story about the security official that works with the Twins that monitors those threats that are basically a post-game daily routine now, right? I didn't think about all of that as this became a bigger part of, a legal part of what happens in America around sports. So I think we're just seeing the extreme downsides of it now, and it's probably a lot worse than if you had a position similar to mine. It's probably a lot worse than you expected. I think it's been much worse than expected so far. So we'll see where it goes from here. We were last week talking about Clase and saying, well, hey, if the Guardians want to stay in the race, trade one of their best relievers, still have a good bullpen, Cade Smith's going to close. Well, it's probably going to happen just by completely different means, I guess. That's just the way things have to keep going for the Guardians right now, which is just
I do have some. I do feel a little badly for the organizations involved sometimes in these situations. The Rays and the Guardians, just I guess you could say like maybe they should have scouted. I still have a piece on makeup, that I'm working on, and you could say that maybe they made a mistake in scouting for makeup, and they deserve this, but anyway. It's going to put a hole in their teams, and it's going to suck. And I feel badly. I guess I feel more badly maybe for the fans of those teams than the organizations, because maybe the organizations made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah. And the Guardians' statement was interesting because they said they've been informed that no additional players or club personnel are expected to be impacted. The Guardians not going to comment further at this time and will respect the league's confidential investigative process as we continue to fully cooperate. I mean, guys, that's the other thing. If you're a Guardians fan, you're like, is this everybody? Is it just these two guys? No one else, is there?
Oh, my God.
Like,
please, nobody else.
Yeah, so that appears to be it as far as the Guardians go, based on their statement. We'll see what comes in the weeks and months ahead. The thing that I thought was number one on the rundown comes second. It's the Ryan McMahon trade. Ryan McMahon got flipped to the Yankees on Friday, made his debut on Saturday. I started to wonder just about the difficulty of going in and out of Coors Field and how that might have impacted Ryan McMahon over the course of his career. He's a player that carries a pretty high strikeout rate, up in the above 30% range this season. A lot of swing and miss in his profile, but he hits the ball very hard. He's still 85th percentile in hard hit rate, 77th percentile in barrel rate. I think this could work really well. And for Ryan McMahon, maybe it's just after his peak as a hitter, but he's still just 30, turns 31 in December, and it's not a rental. This is going to be the new home for him probably for 26 and 27 as well, since he had a long-term deal that he'd signed with the Rockies a few years ago. So this is not a short-term play for the Yankees. They get a great defender, a guy that's, I think, top 4, top 5 in the league at his position with the glove. And that's the floor. But as a lefty going into Yankee Stadium and no longer having to toggle in and out of Coors, I think we could see one more level from McMahon, or at least a few more seasons that look like his best seasons, even on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah, I think Jeff Zimmerman found that it's not just take the away split, which for McMahon is a 216, 302 OBP, 362 slugging. That would be pretty upsetting, I think, to continue to get that. Jeff Zimmerman did some research and found it's a little bit more like 2/3 away split plus 1/3 home split. And if you do that, you get a 400 slugging for Ryan McMahon. You get something like a 230 batting average, like a 315, 320 OBP and a 400 slugging. It's not bad. And I think that the difference, there's twofold difference. You mentioned the years of control for the Yankees, but also just the defense. You look at Eugenio Suarez, the defense isn't quite there. And at this point in his career, at least. And McMahon has better defense. And if you've been watching the Yankees, the defense hasn't been so good recently. They've been throwing it around a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a little bit of like a left-handed Matt Chapman. Chapman's a better defender than McMahon, but McMahon, as you said, is a very good one. I think if you look back over the course of the career of Matt Chapman, we've seen similar fluctuations where the K rate at times has jumped into that 30% range. And, you look at the arc of Chapman's career, I think he's showing some signs of aging maybe a bit better than expected. I think in the Toronto season, the second Toronto season in 2023, the home run total dipped from 27 to 17 that year. We were wondering if he had lost some bat speed and was going the opposite way and basically making less out of his barrels because of just aging. And I think we've seen some evidence in the years since that, no, that was not actually the case. It was not physical skills loss, because we've also seen an improved strikeout rate each of the last 2 seasons. He did get back to that power.
He just has a bat path that goes the opposite field. It's not the best for Matt Chapman in terms of power, but it is probably pretty good for his K rate, which is pretty high. So, what we've seen from McMahon, on the other hand, is that he's kind of pushed the pulling a little bit, and this is his highest pull percentage of his career. And it's come with the highest hard hit rate of his career and the highest barrel rate of his career. So this is kind of what we wanted him to do. And I feel like that short porch in New York is just going to entice him to keep doing it. The Bat X, I didn't look at this. The Bat X has a projection that's basically exactly what I said. It's a little bit worse batting average, 224, batting average 317, OBP 401 slugging. The kind of guy who would hit 24 homers for you over the course of a season. I think it's one of those things that's not that great for 10 and 12 team leagues, but maybe a 12 team CI. But it's the kind of guy who has to be owned in all 15 team leagues.
I think in that park, in that lineup, I think Ryan McMahon is viable as a corner in 12s. I'm in. I'm a little ahead of the projections, or a little higher than the projections are on him at this point. I can think the only thing that might keep him away from like being on and off the roster in a 12-team league is the usage. If they use Ahmed Rosario as a platoon partner, and they would platoon really well. Rosario is a righty.
Then you have to make sure you have a daily league. Yeah.
Then league format maybe starts to chip away a little bit. And then I guess the other factor that's out of McMahon's control completely is Aaron Judge and the health of Aaron Judge. Like if Aaron Judge is in the lineup, that Yankees lineup as it's built right now, top 5 lineup pretty easily. So you know the runs and the RBIs you're going to get. That boost is going to be nice. That's going to be a difference maker compared to some other low average mashers that you would think about on the corner. So
I don't know. WRC Plus says the best offensive team in baseball. Run scores says third best.
Yeah, so maybe even better. Maybe I'm underselling them just a little bit. The Judge story, though, is that he has been placed on the IL with a flexor strain. According to Aaron Boone, no tear in the UCL. A lot of times we worry with the flexor strain that there is something wrong with the UCL, and for pitchers, ends up being Tommy John surgery a lot. So the reports right now are suggesting that Judge could return after the 10-day minimum, but he might have to DH initially, which would mean Giancarlo Stanton puts on a glove and plays in the outfield.
Hey, Stanton wasn't that bad back in the day.
Yeah, but what is Stanton like defensively in 2025?
Yeah, right. Oh, man, I'd like to see. Let's see, the last year that we have advanced defensive stats, 2023, we have a -1 OAA in left field. That's not as bad as I thought, but it's 13 innings. So how much noise how much are we getting out of there? 239 innings with a -2 OAA in right field that year. So, that's not a -6 or 7.
You can find worse defenders.
Yeah.
At least at those points in time. Every year you worry that it could hit that point, though, where it's about as bad as you can get in a corner. But I think for a week, that's probably not the worst thing.
Yeah, but is it a week? I mean, a flexor tendon, I wonder how long it'll be.
Yeah, they're making it seem like it won't be that long. I hope they're right. I just have a little bit of a guarded optimism in this case, I think, as it goes to Judge getting back as quickly and just being himself right away. But important for the Yankees to get it right nonetheless. If you're wondering who is getting the playing time in Colorado now that Ryan McMahon is gone, by the way, Warming Barnabel.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Hit his first homer this weekend.
It's a 80 name.
It is a productive outs name for sure.
I was trying to take a look, and this is one of the weirdest combinations of numbers that I've seen ever. 110 max EV. That's pretty good. It's okay. It's like slightly better than average. 22.8% hard hit rate. What?
That's pretty low.
I don't understand this, dude.
It's a low K
rate, maybe he makes too much contact, so some of it's just soft.
But even if he struck out more, you start to nudge that K rate up, take away some of the weak contact. You're not getting to a 45% hard hit rate. That's just not happening.
I don't understand this kid. I think that maybe 15-team home streamer is where I'm at with him.
Yeah, deep league home streamer, I think. But
I do like that he makes contact, but he is definitely one of those like free swinging contact types most of the time. So you're going to have a low walk rate, a low strikeout rate, and I think low power. I mean, he just hasn't really demonstrated any power. So I guess the 110 max EV is just, maybe that's even a misread, or just maybe once in a while he spanks the ball, but normally he's kind of a hard hit. Well, the other thing that's weird is he pulls the ball like a maniac. He's like 60% pull rates.
Is it a less polished version of Isaac Paredes?
I guess he has some okay fly ball rates. He had really high ones in the minors,
as much
in the low minors.
Yeah,
it's a weird one. I'm interested to see what's happening here. I guess you could pick him up and try to see what his approach looks like in the major leagues.
Opportunity, it's there. for Warming Bernabel in Colorado. Let's see where it goes. All right, so maybe the second most surprising story since we last spoke. Seth Lugo signed an extension with the Royals. It's not surprising that he's staying in Kansas City, but a July extension? Pretty unusual to see something like that. The expectation was that Lugo could have been on the move at the trade deadline this week because he can opt out of his previous deal. He had a chance to opt out of year 3 of the 3 for 45 that he had with the Royals. Instead, he signs a 2-year, $43 million extension, which includes a club option for 2028 that can actually vest for more money. So, more guaranteed money for a guy that will turn 36 in November. There's a couple things about Lugo that came to mind immediately. The first was that 36 actually isn't that old for a guy that throws a lot of pitches. And if the Royals believe that with the core they have Reagan's under control for, I think, through 2028, they got Waka on a multi-year deal. If they want to keep their pitching intact, this was an easy way to do it at a relatively low cost. I mean, compared to that Darvish extension that the Padres gave, which was much longer,
hundreds.
It's not that bad.
10 or something.
Yeah, it was a 9-figure extension, right? The 960 career innings for Seth Lugo, much lower than you'd expect because he spent some years as a reliever. He debuted late. I think there were some injuries folded in there as well. So what do you think this is going to look like? Can Lugo continue to beat his Sierra by a full run in these next couple of seasons? Because that's what he's done in his first 2 years in Kansas City. He's been great.
I'm going to let the projections guide me, but I'm going to projection shop. I'm going to take his best projection. Lugo's best projection is ATC for a 3.99 ERA, 124 WHIP. I think that can be basically where he can be for the next 3 years. That, to me, is at least a Game 3 starter in a playoff situation. So I think he's a mid-rotation starter for 4 years, and that makes this contract worth it. You know, you can get a veteran on a 1-year deal for like $12 million, right? Like a veteran bounce back that you're hoping can be as good as Lugo. So, you know, a fifth starter costs $10 to $12 million on the open market. That's a great deal.
Yeah, it just seems like the kind of guy that will age pretty well. Like I don't
pitches, feel for spin, good command. I think I haven't quite figured out why the park factors for Kaufman are so weird. They reduce Ks and reduce homers, but are basically fair for hitters. Nobody's figured that out, and I actually give Eric Hosmer some grace for being like, no, it is not a hitter's park. Because that's how I see it. But then when I look at all the park factors, I'm like, but they say that it's a slight hitters. I don't get it. Anyway, I feel like certain pitchers have figured out how to use the K to their best abilities, and Lugo seems to be one of them.
I think we're going to have to just go investigate the ballpark ourselves and eat some barbecue. I think
we're going to have to do that.
I think that's like a road trip to
tape
Kansas
measure,
City.
dude.
Get the tape measure, get the click wheel, get that going. Make sure everything tracks the way it's supposed to.
You know, one thing that organizations do not like? Somebody out with a click wheel out in the
I was going to say, two guys they barely know walking around their field with click wheels and writing stuff down on a notepad. Yeah, I bet they love that. I bet that's exactly what they want. The downside news for the Royals from the weekend, Chris Bubich landed on the IL with a rotator cuff strain. So no word yet as far as how long he'll be out beyond that 15-day minimum. Probably not a quick return, which is a pretty big loss for the Royals. And a big loss. I mean, Bubich has just been great all year. I felt so good about myself for sticking with him in a keeper league and having him on a few teams as a late round dart. I think I was the relative high man when we talked about some of the fast starting pitchers earlier in the year, and I was like, I was going to win, and maybe I still did, but I really, really hope this is a 3 to 4 week thing instead of a season ender. But we just don't know at this point.
Yeah. The other thing that I didn't like in the announcement was that he said he'd been feeling it for a while.
That's not great. The Noah Cameron door remains wide open. Cameron, how is he doing this? 2.44 ERA, even one whip.
Put him in the Abbott school of I don't get it. I've
He's
watched
a lefty.
it a bunch.
He's a lefty.
Yeah,
so
true,
is that
lefty.
it? We just can say he's a lefty and be like, done. He's a lefty.
I guess, but it's pretty soft, 92 miles an hour. I suppose the change is above average, so it's a little bit like the Bubic thing where he's got a good changeup. So when you're a lefty, you kind of have to switch that in your head, and it's not as important how good their breaking ball is anymore, and it becomes more of a question of how good their changeup is. So he's got a good changeup, got a pretty good curveball, and from watching, he kind of pitches backwards. He does a lot of like slow, oh, hard, slow. Kind of lulls people to sleep with the slow.
Yeah, I don't know why it works. You've talked about the park being weird, and
I think it works because it's hard to sit changeup. So you can throw changeup and then curve and changeup and then curve, and then maybe once you're like, oh, I think I'm going to sit changeup on this one, then he's like, wow, God, 92.
It's the combination of factors, by the way, for Kauffman Stadium, the rolling 3-year that you're talking about. It's a 101 for overall park factor. So it's a hair above a neutral park for just general offense, right?
Seems weird.
But then an 83 park factor overall for homers. So one of the most difficult places in the big leagues to hit homers. And then it suppresses Ks, like you said before. It's a 90 park factor for strikeouts. It's got a worse strikeout park factor than Coors Field. What?
And how do you suppress strikeouts without altitude? I don't get it. Is it just the most beautiful batter's eye?
It is a beautiful batter's eye.
I guess that's it. It's just perfect contrast. Just see that ball coming out.
Yeah. You get really relaxed out there and just feel good. Just put bat on the ball. I don't know, man. It is strange. But Noah Cameron, he's lefty. That's all I got. That's the main thing. He's a lefty, good changeup, as you said. But the Nick Kurtz game that I teased up top, it was the 20th 4-homer game in MLB history, by far the youngest player to do it. And we're going to do this as a little more of a flyby because the plan for Tuesday is to have a How I'd Pitch This Guy segment focusing on Nick Kurtz, because it's been a while since we've done one of those. Kurtz was having a great rookie season even before the outburst in Houston on Friday night. And I think this was going to merit some conversation anyway. The only real flaw in the stat line so far is the K rate is high for now, 31.2%, which is probably going to give you and Trevor some threads to pull on as you kind of put together that game plan. But geez, 23 homers in his first 67 big league games. I mean, this is a guy that's looking like a clear middle third of the order impact bat, and quickly too. So much of the analysis on our show has been about pitchers moving faster, especially college pitchers moving faster than ever and being more big league ready than ever before. But Nick Kurtz was drafted 4th overall last summer out of Wake, and he's already made a massive impact for this A's lineup.
Yeah, one thing that also sticks out for me is that I'm really intrigued about the difference between Jack Caglione and Nick Kurtz, because they're linked by draft and by coming to the big leagues so quickly, but also just they both have really plus bat speed, 78 mile an hour bat speed, but they're kind of different players. Jack has a great strikeout rate and has not put together this same power despite having the same bat speed as Nick Kurtz. One of the things that I notice is that Jack Caglione has a flat swing, sort of a 28, 29 degree swing. And Nick Kurtz has a 39 degree swing. That's a 10 degree difference. Jack goes and gets the ball, and I think that might be in an effort to kind of put some loft on the ball. Nick Kurtz actually lets the ball travel 5 inches, off of league average. So he's letting the ball travel, but he has so much tilt on his bat and so much bat speed that it's the angle of his swing that's providing the loft. I just think that at some point we're gonna think of these two hitters differently. I think that you see a 380 BABIP for Nick Kurtz, And you see that strikeout rate, and you see Jack with the 20% strikeout rate. And I think Jack will have his day. And Nick Kurtz just had his day, and it was amazing. But I wouldn't be surprised if we can find some way to pitch to him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that segment. And I'm glad you brought up Jack Caglione, because a lot of trade deadlines for fantasy leagues are coming up within a week or so of the Major League trade deadline on Thursday, which we are going to have a live stream for, going live 1 hour before the deadline. This year's deadline is 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go live on our YouTube channel at 5 p.m. Eastern, probably hang out for, 80 minutes or so in case some late deals come across the finish line. Caglione seems like exactly the kind of player you'd want back right now if you're thinking about next year, because the start to his career has been basically the opposite of Kurtz's in terms of the back of the baseball card type success, even though the underlying numbers, you mentioned the K rate, only 21.1% K rate, 12.1% barrel rate. I think very good days are not that far away for Jack Caglione. So this seems like a great time to try and trade for him for next year and beyond.
Yeah, I'm sorry to see he has a hamstring strain, but that might just kind of fossilize these bad stats and emberize it so that people are like, oh, yeah, it was really bad. And they might even not even notice if he comes back from the hamstring injury and does well, in the latter half of the season, because he's banked so many bad days. But yeah, I see that strikeout rate, I see that barrel rate, the 78 mile an hour bat speed. And for what it's worth, the 50% ground ball rate that he's put up this year is bad, but it's not something that he struggled with in the minors. So I like that. I like seeing what I would see as a temporary spike in ground balls. I don't think he's going to have this problem his entire career. So he lifts the ball a little bit, takes advantage of that bat speed a little bit more. I think he needs to miss some. That was an interesting thing that Jed Lowry was saying. In some cases, you want the guys to miss so they can actually hit for power instead of just putting the ball softly into play. So, I think a little refinement of his approach. And then you just look at Oopsie, which incorporates bat speed, and you still have a 252 batting average projection with a 200 ISO. That's a pretty good player there.
Yeah, and a player the Royals desperately need once he's healthy as well. They did make a small trade for Randall Grichuk, trying to get a little more thump into that outfield mix. The last interesting thing I saw on the Kurtz game from Friday, by the way, became the first player in baseball history to have at least 6 runs, 6 hits, and 8 RBIs in one game. I hope you had him in 6 picks on Friday. I did not.
I did not.
I missed that one. Hard to believe.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at where the money went this weekend, because there's actually more news to get to a little later on in the show. So it's kind of a condensed form of our rundown. We talked about the Orioles bullpen situation going into the weekend as one that seemed like it was up for grabs. We also saw Tanner Scott get hurt last week. So Blake Treinen was a big ad where available, especially in the 12-team online championship leagues over at the NFBC. He was the most added player in terms of number of leagues added. Do you think the Dodgers lean on one closer? Like, do you think this is actually going to be a simple replacement for Scott, or do you think it continues to be a little bit of a soft committee at the very least for the Dodgers?
Apologies to Fabian if he hasn't gotten this into a piece yet, or if I haven't checked his publications today, but I know that we were talking about Kirby Yates talking about his splitter not being quite there that it has been in the past. And if you look at the pitch type values on the pitch, which it's a flawed stat because it adds up everything that happens on the pitch, but this is one of his worst years on the splitter. He's not getting good results on the splitters, and in fact, it's his worst year. You can see here in 2025 at -6 run value on the splitter. He says that the seam height difference this year is screwing with his splitter. For whatever case, a guy with a 93 mile an hour fastball and a here again, gone again splitter is not a guy that I really am rushing to give the ball to in the 9th. That just seems like that would be a bunch of Maylocks. So you look at the rest of the options, and Treinen seems like the best one. Maybe Vesia gets some versus lefties situations where there's 2 or 3 lefties that happen to be batting in the ninth. But I would give it sort of a Treinen 75% of the saves in the short term. Kopech is going to come back at some point, and I think he'll figure in. And then there's also, what do they do the trade deadline? If they go get like a Helsley, I think he closes over Treinen.
Yeah, we did see, I think Kopech started throwing last weekend. Yeah, it was over a weekend ago looking at the RotoWire updates. So he's at least active again in his rehab pursuits. Treinen just came off the 60-day IL on Sunday. He had a forearm injury that knocked him out since April. And then with Tanner Scott, that's an elbow injury. So we'll see where that goes. Apparently, the MRI showed no structural damage. So good news, at least on that front for now, for Tanner Scott. But at least in the short term, I think you're right. 75% of those saves could go to Blake Treinen. Look pretty good on that rehab assignment too, by all indications. So that might end up being some money well spent. I still think Sir Anthony Dominguez could be moved between now and the weekend. So that was part of my reasoning for not being all that excited about the other options there. They flipped Gregory Soto to the Mets, as we already talked about. So I don't think the Orioles are necessarily done emptying the cupboard. Troy Melton is an interesting pitcher that came up. And I think the best thing that can happen, at least the best thing that can happen from a pickup cost situation, is that you come up and you don't play well initially. You have a bad start, but you have enough of a runway to continue after that. That's the sweet spot. That's the dream.
Also,
right?
like the model numbers are good, but the results numbers are not good.
Yeah. Troy Melton went 5 in his big league debut. It was against the Pirates last week. There were people that were on that in some deeper leagues right away, in part because Melton was great at AAA. Melton had a 56-9 strikeout to walk ratio in 8 outings. 6 of those were starts. It was 36 in a third inning, so a ton of Ks. Wasn't walking anybody. Good ratios. Had pitched well at AA prior to that, 45-11 in 39 innings over 10 starts. So results were there. And a couple of homers in the debut, but did strike out 7 over 5 innings against the Pirates. And I think, as we've said many times, Comerica's a great place to pitch. So the home park almost automatically gives you a useful use them at home in deeper leagues option. But I think Melton might be a little bit of a pop-up guy this year that has become kind of intriguing on a prospect list too. I saw our buddy James Anderson had him inside his top 100 at his last update. So what do you think of Troy Melton, and how does it shake out with the injuries the Tigers have been dealing with in their rotation?
I mean, the only warning sign I have is that for some reason the slider is below average, but it is above 100, and that gives him 5 pitches with above 100 stuff plus for Troy Melton. So it looks pretty good. And what I wanted to see is, when you look at the raw movement profile for Troy Melton's fastball, it doesn't really pop. 14 IVB, not that exciting. Then you notice the 7-foot extension. And so I tried to find somebody with high velo like Troy Melton, a great extension, the similar arm angle, and the fastball comps are Louis Varland and Spencer Schwellenbach, which is not what I expected at all going in. But you can see right there that maybe those other guys have a slightly more vert, but Melton has an interesting fastball to have that much extension, that much velo, and maybe surprising vert given his slot a little bit. There's something interesting about Troy Melton. Plus, even in that Pirates game that wasn't a great result, he struck out 29% of the batters he saw, and that was in line with what he did in the minors. So K-BB loves him, Sierra loves him, Stuff loves him, just straight up velo scouting loves him, Park Factors love him, and he's got a 2-start week this week. So I bought him in every league.
Yeah, no, it wasn't super expensive either, partially because we're getting to that last third of the season where a lot of fab money has already been spent, and I think in part because that first turn wasn't amazing, even though there were plenty of things to like the closer you looked at it. And I think the only thing I'm really worried about, Alex Cobb is trying to work back from pain in both hips. The last update I saw on him is that he had injections in his hip during the All-Star break for inflammation. So he's still just dealing with all of it, which is pretty typical for Alex Cobb. He's been through a lot. The concern is that the Tigers go out and add another starter, and then Melton kind of gets bumped back into the extra guy seat.
His second start comes on August 3rd. The trade deadline is 3 days before. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's virtually a lock that that the Tigers go out and add a starting pitcher. So, yeah, but I also think that, between Mize and Olsen and Skubal, there's some injury risk. There's a possibility he comes back. I paid streamer prices for him, maybe there's just some other way that he can contribute to this team.
I think for the keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, where he might still be out there, Otonu, like all of those formats are exactly where you should be adding Troy Melton, because the immediate future is less important. He's good enough to stay on your roster, even if he does have to go back down because of a trade. So I think the question for me with the Tigers is like, how good of a pitcher do they add? Like, they definitely need someone that's going to help them get there. But are they trying to trade for someone they feel really good about starting one of the first 3 games of the playoff series? That's the unknown.
I'm going to guess no. I'm going to guess it's a get them there guy.
Okay. A get them there guy is the call from Eno. That's the perception I have of Scott Harris, only because of the organization Olsen, where he came from. But yeah. You could. I think a lot depends on how good you feel about Mize specifically. Do you look at Casey? You must look at Casey Mize as more of a game 3 sort of starter. Actually, who do you like better between Olsen and Mize right now?
Yeah, that's the hard one, actually. I think in my rankings, I had them right next to each other, and I was like, I don't know how to separate these two, because a lot of why you like them in fantasy is the park. In terms of projections, the projections like Olsen be better because they're going to give him a better strikeout rate. But this version of Mize with the hard splitter seems really good. And sometimes I distrust Olsen. Both of them I only had barely in the top 50. So I don't think that they're amazing pitchers, but hey, top 50 starters. That sounds like you have game 3 starters. I think they're fine.
Man,
plus they're probably going to add to the bullpen, and they're really good at using their pitchers correctly.
Yeah, I guess if my choices were a get them there guy plus bullpen help, or a really good number 2 type starter, and then like some real sketchy bullpen arms, I think I'd rather get more of the upgrades in the pen on that team. I think that's where it could make a bigger difference based on how they're built. But yeah, Mize versus Olsen, let us know in the Discord. What side of that would you be on? If you're in an elimination game and you can't use Skubal, which one of those other Tiger starters?
I guess I ended up ranking Olsen higher, so strikeouts are category.
A little more, it's the swing strikes have been there consistently.
But real life,
better results though. Better big league results. Like Casey Mize, I know this version of Mize is the best version we've probably seen yet in the big leagues, but the consistency of Mize hasn't been there year over year. At least around the injuries, Reese Olsen has been a more steady starter.
That's a good point.
So I think that's the direction I would go. What else did you do? You picked up Troy Melton. Who else was on your radar this weekend?
I ended up, let me see what I got here.
Did you get some Josh Young?
I did not.
Did you
get some Andrew Kittredge?
You got some Andrew Kittredge. All right. So you did shop a little bit in that Orioles pen.
Yeah, I thought maybe everybody would go and Kittredge would be the one guy that nobody wanted. He'd just still be there. It could be Cano. I think I had Cano. I think someone took Cano from me.
Kittredge would probably go too, though. I know it's I got they made to pay it down.
Treinen dropping Anthony Bender, so that was another one that I got. And then Masataka Yoshida.
You get some Yoshida? Okay.
Well, just, I think he had a bunch of righties in a row. We just needed a util guy. But Jock Peterson was on that pickup, and nobody picked him up. So Jock Peterson's out there for that need the homers.
Yeah, if you're just chasing that pop at this point, okay, I could see the case for that. Yeah, it was a generally quiet week for me. I didn't have any major ads. I do think this coming weekend we'll have a lot more from all the players that get flipped at the deadline. I mean, even like the Bernabels in the deeper leagues, like this weekend. If you're in an NL only league,
trying to be ahead of that. I wanted to be ahead of that. We talked about it a little bit on Friday about
the closers,
closers. But then I went and looked, and Cade Smith was owned everywhere. So people
he was already stashed.
Way ahead of that.
And even we thought like Jordan Lawler, he's not even healthy right now. So there's not even as many leagues where you can just throw him on your roster right now and wait it out for a couple of weeks till he comes off the IL.
Yeah, I tried to get Lucas Erceg, and he was gone. So that's where I ended up with Kittredge and Treinen. I did another thing with Nick Pollock on the craft. We were talking about who's next up in rotations after guys that'll be traded. And it's not that exciting. I mean, yes, Bubba Chandler was listed because the Pirates are probably going to trade some guys, and maybe that'll be finally the impetus to bring up Bubba Chandler. Maybe they give Braxton Ashcraft a chance in the rotation. That's on the better end of guys that could come up. I think Jack Perkins will get a shot in Oakland after the trades because JT Ginn has already been pretty interesting. I think he's a deep league pitcher that I saw him get picked up this week, and I would pick him up if he's available in 15 teams and deeper. I think Jack Perkins is the next guy to get a shot. I think maybe they trade Jeffrey Springs because nobody, I think, is going to trade for Luis Severino. And so, I think Jack Perkins is a guy. Joe Boyle is already getting his chance. I guess he deserves to be in the top there. Maybe Cade Cavalli if they trade Mike Soroka. I don't know, Kyle Wright in Kansas City.
There's a name I forgot about. Yeah, he's coming back from the shoulder injury, right?
There's another name you forgot about, Robbie Snelling. In Florida. I mean, Robbie Snelling and Adam Mazur are the next guys in Florida. It's not really exciting. Maybe Noah Schultz, if the White Sox trade somebody, that would be really exciting, but you just never know if they actually do. And, Cade Povich would be coming, but that's just sort of coming back from injury. It's not really a next guy. Or Cal Bradish is coming back from injury. So if they trade Morton, they might just slide Bradish and Povich in and maybe go to a 6-man or something. But so it's not really, there's not a lot of names where I'm like, oh, you got to get this guy before they make the trade. The only one I would say is Jack Perkins in deeper leagues. If he's out there, I'd pick him up.
I did pick up Josh Bell in 15-team mixed labor. Just needed a little thump.
You just think he'll go somewhere? Or? He's been hitting all right.
Yeah, he's just been hitting like enough where I'm like, yeah, he's producing and he could get traded to a contender. The only problem is if he gets traded to a contender, then he probably becomes more of a part-time player again. So
yeah,
kind of need him to stay right where he is ideally. But I don't know. I that was it for me for bats. It was a light week really overall. And
Nathan Lucas has a good streaming schedule for the next few days. But I'm a little worried that is a team that has Dalton Varsho coming back and could add a bat. I don't see that as a need for them, but they might add a bat. And I guess Santander's got to come back someday. So anything there, I would treat Lucas as a streamer. I am interested to see Jordan Walker being picked up.
Yeah, there was some Jordan Walker interest this week. I picked up in a bunch of the main events were available. Just came back, was it last week? Yeah, and they're banged up right now because Gorman's out, Newt Barr's on the IL, so it's a window.
Did he do anything in the minor leagues? He was terrible in the minor leagues.
No, but he's been playing well in 10 games. The 10 games since he came back, basically since the All-Star break. 314, 385, 457, 23% K rate. Hasn't homered yet. But only 9 Ks and 39 plate appearances. I think that's a nice run from Walker. Playing every day.
I know. Okay, so he's got 3 barrels. Oh, he has 5 barrels. No, that's from before. He has 3 barrels since he's back. All right, yeah. I don't know. The thing for me is just that, like, I think there's something wrong with the swing shape or something. Like he hits the ball hard, and we've been waiting for him to do something with that for so long, and it's just not there. There's got to be fewer players with a bigger differential between their 116.5 max EV and their 9.3 barrel rate.
It's one of the bigger mysteries in the history of rates and barrels. Like, why isn't Jordan Walker getting to that power more often? But still a believer. Don't know if it's another new hitting coach, new organization, what it needs to be. I just like that they're playing him every day right now, even if it is because of
That's
the
probably
injuries.
the reasoning, yeah.
Just
maybe
let
teams
him
that just
play.
need power. Yeah.
Just let him play.
I see Matt Shaw being picked up in the 12-teamers.
Yeah. Shaw, okay. I was thinking about this. Okay, who's your comp for Matt Shaw?
Evan Carter with worst plate discipline.
Is that good?
It's okay. It's just not going to have an OBP that puts him at the top of the lineup. So I see them both as sort of like 10 to 15 homers and 20 plus steals with an okay batting average.
Yeah.
Carter has better on base skills though, in a way that could put him at the top of the lineup.
I mean, basically in the time since the All-Star break ended, Shaw's added almost 100 points to his season OPS. 3 homers in the last week. Chipping in with speed. We know, we looked at the swing at the beginning of the season, that the adjustments he's had to make too probably take some time before we'd really see them pay off. Compare Matt Shaw to Ryan McMahon from the beginning of the show. 12-team, corner infielder. Who do you like better? Do you like Shaw because he can run? Or do you trust McMahon more because higher floor?
I think it's a need situation. Neither's going to be great in batting average. So if you need stolen bases, I think probably in rest of season value is probably Shaw.
I think I'd take McMahon unless I was desperate in that steals category. I do think there's just a better all around floor there. But nice to see Matt Shaw picking it up here a bit coming out.
It's still a
the
terrible
All-Star
hard hit rate. Pretty terrible max EV. It's not good bat speed, not good barrel rate. So he makes contact and he has speed, but I don't know where his like true talent power peak might be. 18 to 20 homers. I don't know.
It also just makes things even more interesting in these last couple of days. Did the Cubs go out and upgrade that spot? And does Matt Shaw end up in a part-time role for the final couple months of this season, even though he could be the long-term
There are rumors
answer?
to that possibility.
Yeah, I think it's spicy. I think it's fun to watch. Be less excited about it if I was relying on Matt Shaw playing well right now for my teams. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Evan Carter with worst plate discipline. That was not the comp I expected to go out there for Matt Shaw.
I guess Evan Carter's a lefty too. So
some other news though. There's some other stuff going on. So the first time I saw this story, the first report I saw about the meeting between the Phillies and Rob Manfred that occurred in the Phillies clubhouse being contentious, it was a report from The Bandwagon, the newsletter that Hannah Kaiser and Zach Kreiser put out. And there was a follow-up story that came out, I think, Monday morning. Jeff Passan, ESPN, had a nugget that Bryce Harper stood nose to nose with Rob Manfred in the Phillies clubhouse and told him to get the F out of our clubhouse if he wanted to talk about a salary cap.
Oh, I love it.
I love it.
Go so for good. It. What's underlying this is that, Rob Manfred has, in the guise of listening to players out and, he said, I've done a bad job in the past of, getting in front of the players and really letting them know who I am as a person and stuff. This is just like a goodwill tour. He's just getting to listening to the players. Oh, you care about the ball and the seam height, and let me see if we can figure that out. Yeah, I care about that too. I care about the things you care about. Oh, and by the way, they've been stealing money from you. And the union has been stealing money from you. This is something he said. He said the union, if we'd had a salary cap, they would have made more money.
Yeah. Sorry.
Something I doubt.
Not going to just trust that on its face. I don't think the players are going to trust that on the face. And I think there's actually another part of that story that Manfred, this is from the Passan piece, Manfred sources said, responded that he was, quote, not going to get the F out of here, end quote, saying it was important to talk about threats to MLB's business and ways to grow the game. I think I kind of fall in these conversations between Manfred and the players and maybe working toward a path where a lockout decision from the owners is not the outcome generally is a good idea. But the interest, the motivations are are not to unite in this instance. They are to divide very clearly. Like, it's not.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying
it.
is that Harper put some words to the lie that he's not on a goodwill tour. He's on like a seeding doubt tour. He's like on a like, I'm trying to get the owners, thinking thoughts processes out there to the players. I'm talking directly to the players and outside of union leadership. And we saw there might have been some, this has some effect because in the last layer, when they approved the CBA, the union leadership all voted against it and the player reps voted for it. Mm. So I think that was, an aha moment for Manfred to be like, oh, I need to speak to the players directly. Now, it could have been a symbolic vote where the union leadership wanted to say, hey, this is an okay thing, but we want to tell you that we don't like this one, but we know how this is going to go. Like, I don't think the union leadership was surprised when the player reps all voted for it. I think it was more like, we don't like it. We just want that noted. And now all the player reps are going to vote for it. They're not that out of touch with their rank and file.
Right. So apparently things cooled down after that point. They did shake hands before parting ways that day. So it wasn't like they both just stormed off after that confrontation. But I love it.
I mean, I bet you that was a firm handshake.
Yeah, like I'm venturing a guess that Bryce Harper can squeeze Rob Manfred's hand a little harder than Rob Manfred can squeeze Bryce Harper's hand. But I'd love to have some stats from the handshake if we could get those.
What a ridiculous idea.
Some other things you may have missed. I mentioned Gregory Soto to the Mets. Eric Fetty and Carlos Carrasco both are in Atlanta now. Some player to be named later or cash considerations will end up going to St. Louis. And they're just filling in
waiver
rotation.
Claims.
Yeah,
those are waiver claims. I saw Starling Marte drawing trade interest, and I'm like, like somebody will take him for free.
Yeah, for cash or a player to be named later, most likely.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Typically how it goes. Nestor Cortez had another rehab start. 9 Ks, 1 earned run over 5 2/3 of AAA Nashville. That appears to be
my
stretched out and ready.
Is working out. I'm excited. Nestor Cortez is underrated. He is their trade deadline acquisition in the rotation.
They don't even need rotation help, so it's a good thing. They may go to a 6-man rotation. We don't really know for sure.
What do you think that does to the rotation? I mean, you think Nestor has a spot waiting for him. I mean, I don't think that's so. Who's he take? It says here that he starts on Friday against the Nationals, and that's 6. Fangraphs says 6.
I think they would go 6 because they've been carefully using Mizorowski that first turn out of the break. He pitches again Monday night. I think that'll be somewhat telling. But you don't
want to really push Woodruff that hard.
You'd like to just keep everybody as fresh as possible. Freddie Peralta's got a ton of innings on his arm this year, so keeping him a little healthy throughout the second half. Again, if this is the way to do it, I think there are worse ways to do it.
On ownership rates for these guys in weekly leagues. Like somebody was asking me about Dustin May, and I was like, I like Dustin May as a pitcher, but you'll never get a 2-start week out of him. And, they move the schedule around all the time. You may get a 0-start week out of him, So in weekly leagues, you have to give a slight downgrade to all of the Milwaukee pitchers. But he was like $1 stash for me a week ago. So I'm happy to get 1 start a week out of him.
Well, and at this point in the year, I think you'd say you lose 2 2-start weeks because there's 2 months left. I think you get basically 1 a month in a 5-man rotation. Typical back of the napkin sort of math. So, okay.
Maybe that's...
So it's pretty...
Unless you're a hardcore streaming team where you're trying to have 3 or 4 starting pitchers that are always 2 starts in every week, then Cortez can have value for you.
Yeah. A couple minor league notes. Thomas White at AA for the Marlins, 14 Ks, no walks on Saturday. Maybe we'll see a little Thomas White before the end of this season. I think we're definitely going to see him in 2026, even if we don't get a debut before the end of this year. He's one of the best pitching prospects for the Marlins. 14 Ks, no walks at AA.
I missed that.
That's a gem.
Thomas White, huh?
Thomas White. And then Trey Yeasavage also.
Do you think he'll go past Snelling and Mazer? But he's a 20-year-old at AA.
Definitely better than those guys, but I just don't know if their plan is to give him a taste of the big leagues this year or not.
Yeah.
wonder where his innings are going to land. 96 innings last year. He's at 55. Oh, he's fine. He could just pitch the rest of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about Major Snelling. I do want to see what Snelling's stats, his movements and stuff look like in the major leagues, because there's some weird stuff numbers, and he used to be well regarded. So I just want to see what he's got. Just put him in the majors so I can get some numbers I can believe in. And we have some late breaking news. Breaking news. We've got Chris Paddock to the Tigers. Details are going to be confirmed in the coming hours, but Chris Paddock to the Tigers. I mean, we were just talking about how they're going to add a starting pitcher. There goes your Troy Melton second start. Yay.
Bummer. And for never Chris Paddock, but is there good news on the Twins side of that one? Not having Paddock there, do we like anybody that gets more stability?
I think that this is just, they don't want to rely on Troy Melton in the position they're in. They have one of the best records in the big leagues, and they want to just keep on rolling. I don't think Paddock is, goes ahead of Mize or Olsen in the pecking order, but maybe he could be their game 4 starter in a long playoff series. I think that he could maybe match up pretty interestingly. A righty with a changeup like that could be someone that you use as a secret lefty, in the pen. Basically, somebody that could get lefties out in games, in the middle of the games. There's another thing that sticks out for me. The reason that the Twins liked him, and the reason maybe the Tigers liked him, he has the best location plus out of anybody that was available at the deadline. In terms of K-BB, he's less exciting. He has the the 14th best K-BB among available pitchers. But I think that actually gives you a good sense of where he is. He's middle of the pack in terms of available pitchers. I had 30 pitchers that were available. So he's middle of the pack. He's not going to cost you much. And he's a rental, but he has great command, great changeup, could be useful, and he's now your number 5 starter. I think it's a decent. I mean, who else is in that group? Like Mitch Keller has a similar K-BB over the last 30, and he's going to cost more, maybe, or he's going to cost more in terms of money for sure. He's under contract for a while. Bailey Falter is right there. Zach Eflin, Herman Marquez, Tyler Anderson, Charlie Morton. I think I like Paddock better than most of those guys.
Yeah, I guess. I think I like Troy Melton better than Paddock, though. Come on. What are we doing here?
Oh, you're such a never Paddock. I love it.
I really am. Some other good news, too, by the way. Michael Harris might be putting it back together. 9-game stretch since the All-Star break, hitting .412, 3 homers, only 5 strikeouts, and 36 plate appearances. I'd be happy to see that. I've got Michael Harris on a couple teams. Nice to see him get back on track, potentially.
He's got some talent, man. I think it's like a bad plate approach, but maybe sometimes you can lock that in and improve somewhere.
I wonder if there's anything to the bad first few months, but just having the All-Star break to actually stop for a couple of days and then start a clean slate of sorts in the second half.
I did have a GM tell me that they had looked into the value of the reset, and that they'd found some positive value in sending people to the minor leagues for a reset, a mental reset. So I think that speaks to the value of confidence, refresh, just to get out from the daily grind of oh God, I struck out 3 times and grounded out and did that again. And I gotta play again tomorrow. You know what I mean?
You wake up, and if you're home, you get in the car, you drive the same route back to the stadium, like Groundhog's Day. There's got to be something about just snapping out of that. Not that anyone ever wants to go down, but maybe just that break from the grind. Maybe it actually seems like
Holiday came back with and has been a very decent major leaguer since his refresh.
Yeah. Case for the refresh. All right. Well, I'm glad they're studying it. Glad they're seeing some benefits to it. It makes. I think it depends on the player, though. I think for some, that demotion might shatter the confidence in a way that is even worse.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Jordan Walker's numbers in the minors, and I remember also Francisco Lindor being he stalled out in the minor leagues at some point, and he was better in the major leagues. And they asked him, and he said, "Yeah, I was bored."
It's an all-timer.
So yeah, I mean, it can go the wrong way, but the All-Star break one is one where everyone has that. So that doesn't have the like you suck and you had to go to the minor leagues aspect to it.
It's the natural built-in chance to just press pause, try something a little different, go back,
go to the beach for a day,
home, go to beach, go to wherever you go to get right. It gives you a little chance to do that. Maybe that's what's happening with Michael Harris, and maybe that's what happened with Matt Shaw too. He's playing really well since the break, as we talked about earlier. We need to go. On our way out the door, a reminder, you can join our Discord. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Our trade deadline special is happening Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern. We'll go live. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you should see a thumbnail there where you can actually be notified once we go live, reminded. But yeah, you'll know. It's the trade deadline. It's the best day of the year in baseball. Not really, but we'd like to pretend that it is because it makes it more fun. Thanks to Brian Smith putting this episode together. That's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Tuesday.
Thanks for listening.